Now let's talk about keyboard shortcuts. Keyboard shortcuts can do things instantly, what it takes a mouse several seconds to accomplish. I'm going to show you several keyboard shortcuts that work in most, if not all, programs on a Windows computer. Let's start with the Open shortcut. The Open shortcut is Control-O, and I can use the Open shortcut in the Paint program. So let's try that. If I hold down the Control key and type the letter O, it allows me to open a file. It works in Internet Explorer, so I can use Control-O, and it will allow me to open a file or open a web address. In Microsoft Word, I can use Control-O, and it will ask me for a Word document to open. Control-O does not work in File Explorer or Windows Explorer. Another set of keyboard shortcuts is designed to help you select things, and one of the most useful of these is Control-A. In this case, A stands for all. Anytime that you need to select all of something, Control-A is a very good shortcut to use. So let's see what happens when I use Control-A in these four programs. In Microsoft Word, Control-A selects all of the text here. And you might think, why would I need to use that if I can just use the mouse? But imagine if this document were several pages long. It would take a lot more effort to use the mouse to select the entire document than it does to simply hold Control and type A. In Paint, I can use Control-A, which selects the entire picture that I have opened here. In Windows Explorer, I can use Control-A, and it will select all of the files in my current view. And in Internet Explorer, I can use Control-A to select all of the text in a web page, which is very useful, especially in times when I would like to print the page and there's no way to get a good printable view of a certain web page. You don't always have to select everything. You can also select part of a document. And the key here is to use the Shift key. In this case, I can use the Shift key in combination with the arrow keys on my keyboard to select part of this document. And I can move to the right or to the left. You notice that I'm still holding the Shift key. I can move down to select line by line. And if I want to select word by word, I can hold Control and Shift and move my arrow keys to the right and to the left. That shortcut does not necessarily work in Internet Explorer. However, it will work in any field in Internet Explorer that allows you to type, like this. The Shift and Arrow shortcut also works in Windows Explorer. But it does not work in Paint or other graphical programs. Now, once you have something selected, what can you do with it? You can copy and paste and cut. Those are very useful. Let's make a copy of this paragraph. So I am going to use Control-A to select it, and then I'm going to use Control-C to copy. Then I can move my cursor down, and I can use Control-V to paste. And once you paste, you can actually paste multiple times by continuing to hold Control and type the letter V. These shortcuts also work in Windows Explorer. I can copy my desktop folder, and I can go to another location, and I can paste that folder, and I have made a copy of that desktop folder. It also works, of course, in Internet Explorer. I can copy part of this web page, and I can come over to my Microsoft Word document and paste it with Control-V. And it also works in graphical programs for the most part. So if I want to put this bunny picture into my Microsoft Word document, I can use Control A, Control C, and Control V. And now I have the bunny picture in my Word document. I can also put it into an email in the same way. There we go. Now I have the bunnies in my email. Now sometimes you don't want to copy something, sometimes you want to move something. And in this case I'd like to move my bunny picture from the top to the bottom. And yes, you can use your mouse to do this, but let's learn how to do it using keyboard shortcuts. In this case I'm going to use not Control C, because that would copy it. I'm going to use Control X. Control X appears to delete the words or the picture that you use it on. But if I move to the end of the document and use Control V, there it is. So Control X is handy when you need to move a paragraph or a word from one location to another. If I want to multiply the number of bunnies in this picture, I can select them and copy and paste. And so now I have 4 bunnies where before I had only 2. If I don't like this location for the bunnies, I can use Control X and Control V to put them in a different place. So Control C, Control V, and Control X work in most programs. Another useful shortcut is Control F or Control Find. So for example, if I wanted to search this CNN article, maybe I want to search it for the word vote. If I use Control F, which brings up a little find menu like this, I can type the word vote. And it tells me that there are 5 matches, and I can click the next button and it will show me each instance of the word vote. In Windows Explorer, I can use Control F, and it will simply put my cursor up in here into the Find window. So if I want to find picture files, I can type in the word PNG, and it will show me all picture files. In the Paint program, Control F does not do anything. In Microsoft Word, I can use Control F, and it will search for individual words. However, Microsoft Word comes with another feature called Find and Replace. This is a very handy tool when you have, for example, maybe you're writing about somebody and you have misspelled their name every single time that you typed it. This would be a very good way to fix that problem with one step. To get that tool, it is not Control F, it's Control H. Control H brings up the Find and Replace tool. So let's say you're finished with your document, you're quite satisfied with it, and you would like to save a copy. The easiest way to do that is Control S, or Control Save, and that will bring up the Save menu. If you are working on a document that is already saved, then Control S will not bring up this menu. Instead, it will simply save the file in its original location. Let's do that. So if I use Control Save, I want to save it on my computer. Now if I use Control S, it will not bring up a menu. It will simply save any changes to that same document. Here's Microsoft Internet Explorer. In this case, if I want to save this web page as a file on my computer, I can use Control S, and it will save the web page as well as any pictures used in that web page to a folder on my computer. In Microsoft Paint, I can use Control S, and it will save this file directly to the original file. Now, if you want to save a file with a new name or save a file as a copy of the original, in some programs that shortcut is Control-Shift-S. But in this case, that does not work. In Microsoft Word and in other Microsoft programs, the new key in order to do that is actually the F12 key at the top of your keyboard. The F12 key will bring up a window which will allow me to save the document with a new name in a new location. The F12 key is also the key to use in Paint. There is no Control-Shift-S or F12 in Windows Explorer or Internet Explorer. What about if I want to print? And to print using a keyboard shortcut is Control-P, which will allow you to select your printer and your settings and print. It's the same shortcut in Internet Explorer and in Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word will give you several options for formatting your page. There is no Control-P in Windows Explorer. Now, an important question to ask is, what happens if I make a mistake? And this is one of my favorite keyboard shortcuts. It works almost universally. If you make a mistake, all you need to do is use Control-Z, and it will undo the last thing that you did in that file, in that program. Control-Z works in Windows Explorer. So for example, if I make a copy of this file using Control-C and Control-V, but then I decide I don't want that copy and that was a mistake, I can use Control-Z and it will remove the file that I just created. If I'm typing an address and I realize that I made a mistake in Internet Explorer, I can use Control-Z and it will correct my mistake. In Microsoft Word, you have several levels of Control-Z. So, if you make a mistake, it's easy to correct that mistake with Control-Z. And so you can type Control-Z multiple times in order to go back several steps in your history. Now, suppose that you use Control-Z by mistake. How do you Control-Z a Control-Z? In that case, you can do a reverse undo, or sometimes called a redo button. And depending on the program that you're using, it might be one of two combinations. In Microsoft Word, it is Control-Y. In some programs, Control-Y doesn't work, and instead the shortcut is Control-Shift-Z. So here I have my two sets of bunnies. If I use Control-Z, the duplicate bunnies go away, and if I use Control-Y, they come back. If I delete that picture, I can use Control-Z to bring it back, and I can use Control-Y to redo it. In Internet Explorer, if I'm typing an email, here is a mistake that I have made. I can use Control-Z to undo that, and it undoes each word. If I need to bring those words back, I can use Control-Y. Now in some programs, Control-Y does not work, and instead you need to use Control-Shift-Z.